So no one told you life was gonna be expensive? Well, it's true. Life is expensive. From your home, to your food, to your family, to your friends. That's right, today we are talking about Friends, and not your friends. I'm not a creeper, I don't know them. But Friends, the wildly popular 90s sitcom that follows 6 super hot friends navigating life together. Just like I did in my video financially auditing Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City, today we will be financially auditing the main characters of Friends: Rachel, Ross, Monica, Joey, Chandler, and Phoebe. The show has tons of juicy money lessons that we can dive into, from setting financial boundaries to luxury spending to handling unemployment. And of course, the inexplicably cheap rent of an enormous New York apartment. And since we have a group of 6 to audit today, I thought it'd be fun to do a little ranking at the end of this video from worst to best money situation. So let me know in the comments now who you think will be best and worst, what your ranking is, and let's see how it compares to mine. But before we dive deep into each character's awesome or awful money moves, first off, I'm Kara. I make videos on the intersection of money, media, and intentional living. It's basically light financial education wrapped up into pop culture and commentary, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, be sure to subscribe. And if you like this video, don't forget to check out my other financial audit of Carrie Bradshaw that I did a month ago, and make sure to leave a comment on who you want me to financially audit next. Thanks to all the great comments from the last video recommending that I audit the Friends group. Okay, intro out of the way, let's dive in, shall we? But who do we pick first? Who is my first financial audit victim? Well, I'm going to pick the person who I feel like in the group would be most down to being picked apart first, and that is Joey Tribbiani. Joey is the very loyal, very caring, and very dense friend of the group. He might not always know what's going on, but the dude knows how to have a good time. Personally, him and Phoebe are tied as my favorites of the group. Work-wise, Joey is an actor, but an often struggling one, meaning we usually see him with on and off acting gigs, his most consistent probably being his stint as a doctor on the soap opera Days of Our Lives. But acting is a notoriously unstable job, so during the dry spells of acting work, Joey has to supplement his income in various ways, from being the face of an STD ad campaign, to briefly working as a waiter at Central Perk, to even becoming a sperm donor at one point, something that likely paid only a few $100s at most.
When did you go to a sperm bank?
Well, right after I did that sex study down at NYU.
But Friends is a whopping 10 seasons, and fortunately for Joey, he is not a struggling actor for all 10. Season 2 is when Joey is cast in Days of Our Lives the first time around. It's a job that likely paid around $250 per episode, according to inflation-adjusted estimates for new soap opera actors. Joey's character was quickly killed off, so no more paychecks there, but like any good soap opera, his character comes back season 7 of Friends, where Joey becomes a reoccurring cast member, a role that probably had him raking in a couple $1,000s per soap opera episode. Joey's acting trajectory does not stop there, because in season 7 he's also cast as a star in a big war movie, a role that probably came with a fat paycheck. So with this track record of random work, financially speaking, how is Joey doing?
How you doing?
In most of Friends, probably not so hot. We see throughout the series that Chandler often financially supports Joey, from paying Joey's half of rent, to paying for Joey's various acting classes, to even buying Joey's groceries and dinners. Screen Rant did an estimated breakdown of how much Chandler probably spent on Joey over the years, and it adds up to a crazy $114,000. Maybe I'm an awful friend, but I'm sorry, I'm not subsidizing my friend's lifestyle that much. There is no way. That being said, Joey does try to help here and there to pay it back, from inviting Chandler to his movie premiere to helping Chandler out when he's going through money problems.
I need to borrow some money.
Oh, sure, yeah. How much? $2,000?
By the end of Friends, I think there's an argument for Joey being the highest earner of the group. Though, it's important to note that income alone is not a good indicator of one's financial health. As the saying goes, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. A lot of people fall into the trap of having a high income but still living paycheck to paycheck because of lifestyle inflation, meaning that as they make more, they also spend more. Now, pros for Joey. He seems to maintain similar spending habits from the start to the end of Friends, even as his income presumably skyrockets. If Joey is tucking away that extra money to savings and investments, means he's looking at a really solid financial future. Now, cons for Joey, he does seem to buy impulsively here and there, which can make it hard to keep to your budget. And in season 2, we see that Joey is overwhelmed by his credit card statements. Credit cards can be super dangerous if they're not spent like real money, and credit card debt can be all-consuming. So that is something that Joey should probably be on the lookout for if he wants to improve his finances.
Look at this. How did I spend so much money?
Joey, that's just the minimum amount due. That's your total due.
Plus, even though Joey has made it, if you have seen my video on the celebrity money problem, you'll know that celebrity incomes can be a recipe for going broke. So it would be wise for Joey to set aside money for an emergency fund for those days of our lives when the money isn't rolling in so much. I know, a great pun, I'm here all week. Nonetheless, Joey ends up in a pretty good place as long as he stays intentional with his spending and makes sure to save and budget. If Joey was plopped into 2024, I'd recommend he start using Rocket Money, which just happens to be today's sponsor. If you're looking to get a better handle on your finances, from tracking your income to your spending to your net worth, Rocket Money is a fantastic all-in-one personal finance platform to use. Rocket Money lets you not only review specific things you're buying, but will break down your spending trends. This is a huge help for me when I financially audit myself, because day to day, it can sometimes be hard to figure out where my money is going. I'll have a dinner out there, I'll do online shopping there, and if I don't use Rocket Money, it's really easy for me to overspend. Not only that, but with Rocket Money, you can set up smart savings, where they'll automatically deposit savings into a smart savings account for you. They also let you set budgets with notifications anytime you go over budget, and you can safely and securely cancel unwanted subscriptions you have with just a tap. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today and go to rocketmoney.com/Kara or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/Kara to get started for free. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. All right, so with Joey financially audited, who is my next victim? Let's see if you guys can guess with some hints. She is gorgeous, but aren't they all? Her hairstyles are still famous to this day, might be getting warm now, and she really likes saying, "Oh."
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. What? Yes. Wow, is it like this? What? Wow. No.
That's right, the next financial audit is with the wonderful Rachel Green. Rachel is first introduced as the runaway bride in episode 1, but she is many things. She's a fashionista, a roommate to Monica, a list reader, and she's one half of the famously on and off couple of Rachel and Ross.
We were on a break.
For the first 3 seasons of Friends, Rachel works as a waitress at Central Perk. Now, income-wise, to figure out how much Rachel is making, it's unfortunately not as simple as going by the minimum wage of the 90s. You see, in the US, waiters have a weird pay structure where their base pay is far below minimum wage. As of this year, 2024, it can be as low as $2.13 an hour. And it's so low because the idea is that tips will make up the rest of the minimum wage. And if it doesn't, the employer is supposed to pay the employee the difference. That sometimes happens, it legally should happen, but it doesn't always, which is just one reason why our tipping system right now is not a good one. But that's beside the point right now. Anyways, because of this structure, Rachel was likely making most of her income from tips. On one hand, Rachel is gorgeous, and studies have shown attractive waitresses make more in tips, interestingly from other women, according to Business Insider. But at the same time, Rachel wasn't great at her job, not the best waitress. Thus, her poor service might have reduced her tip income.
Stephanie, whatever her name is. I mean, you won't be here. You don't pay her. It's not going to cost you anything.
I don't know.
Come on, Terry. I'll even clean the cappuccino machine.
You don't clean the cappuccino machine?
With all this in mind, let's say that Rachel was roughly bringing in about $1,900 a month from her waitressing job, which is not an easy amount to live on in New York City when considering rent and food and bills, not to mention the many fantastic outfits that Rachel Green wore. Her fashion is probably my favorite on the show, just so good. So good, but so expensive. Like we saw in the financial audit of Carrie Bradshaw, clothes can rack up to quite an expense. While we can't know for sure what Rachel bought, we do know that she almost never rewears an outfit on the show, and she often has high quality pieces and even some designer items. I'm going to very conservatively say that she spends $1,400 a year on clothes, which is twice the inflation adjusted amount that the average household spends on clothes a year. Now, while the love of fashion can become a financial liability, the pro for Rachel is that she does end up working in the fashion industry. Her career progression eventually has her as a merchandiser at Ralph Lauren, a role that likely paid max of $55,000 according to Bustle. Based on some clues throughout the series, I actually suspect that Rachel's quite good with money. For one, she comes from a rich family, but she was super open and adaptable to starting over again and finding jobs. By the end of the show, Rachel is offered a Paris job that she quickly says yes to, which I think could indicate that Rachel has savings tucked aside for big moments like this. Rachel's trajectory throughout the show is a really cool one in my opinion. She grows a ton personally and professionally, and I think a lot of that has to do with her mindset. So not bad, Rachel, not bad. But who, I ask you, is next in this audit? Well, let's just go over to Rachel's roommate, Monica. Because I want to specifically talk about Monica's apartment and what the hell is going on there. You and I both see this place, right? It's huge, especially for New York. And one of the glaring questions in Friends is how can Monica and Rachel afford this place? And the answer to that, besides the obvious "this is a TV show, Kara" answer, is that the apartment is supposedly rent controlled under Monica's grandma's name. According to Friends, the 1,100 square foot apartment costs only $200 a month for Monica and Rachel, meaning each of them are only spending $100 a month on their rent. Seriously, the greatest rent deal in history right there. And with that little going to fixed housing costs, Monica already has a huge head start financially. Not to mention, by the end of Friends, Monica has a role as a head chef at a restaurant, a job that Bustle estimates paid her $80,000. Now, Monica does go through periods of unemployment throughout the show, and when she is working, it's not always as a head chef where the pay is high. That being said, with her only paying $100 a month on rent, and because her personality is so meticulous and planning focused, I feel pretty confident that Monica is someone who saves for rainy days. The disposable income alone from her rent savings would likely be enough to fully fund her emergency fund in just a couple of months. I'd note the standard advice for something like an emergency fund is to have about 6 months of living expenses set aside in something like a savings account. But anyways, to me, Monica strikes me as someone who is probably great at budgeting and working toward financial goals. And I say that because she has a lot of the same attributes that make for good personal finance. Business Insider did this neat piece on 4 qualities of people who are good with money, and the qualities included goal-driven, value-driven, accountable, and efficient, all adjectives that I think fit Monica very well. She's also fairly risk-averse, so as long as she is investing, which she definitely should be in order to grow her wealth, she'd likely invest in more conservative assets like bonds or mutual funds. Now, everyone's openness to volatility in their investments is going to be different, but personally, I really like mutual funds because I think they strike a great balance between safety and growth. So overall, Monica's not doing too shabby.
Rules are good! Rules help control the fun.
With that, let's do a little financial peek into Monica's boo and Joey's sugar daddy, Chandler. My guess is that Chandler Bing likely made the most money over the 10 seasons of Friends out of any of the 6. His job was a little vague at times. I think he was a data analysis or configuration person, which honestly sounds like a job taken straight from the show Severance. Great show, by the way. And I don't think I'm alone in being confused about what exactly Chandler did.
What is Chandler Bing's job?
Either way, we know it paid pretty well. Bustle's breakdown of the Friends jobs has Chandler making anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in his mystery job. I personally think it's closer to the 100,000 side simply because of how Chandler manages to completely bankroll Joey's life like we talked about earlier, which actually might work against Chandler in this audit. Despite what a good friend Chandler is by always paying for Joey, it does raise a red flag around Chandler's financial boundaries. Setting financial boundaries, which in this case takes the form of saying no to always paying for others, is a really important step in prioritizing your own financial health. It's like putting on your oxygen mask before helping others put on theirs. And even though Chandler has a high salary until season 10 when he pivots careers to an advertising internship, he and Monica still quickly fall into money problems. Realistically, it's hard to imagine this happening if Chandler took steps in the 9 seasons before to save every month, establish an emergency fund, and invest regularly. Perhaps he was doing this, but simultaneously he was spending $114,000 on Joey with no plan for repayment. Money can be an awkward thing to talk about in close relationships, but it's a really important topic. Money conversations can help with salary transparency amongst coworkers. It can help couples understand their shared finances better. And with friends, it can help make sure that there aren't major misunderstandings and that people aren't being put into situations that are financially uncomfortable. A great example of this comes up in the Friends episode, the one with 5 steaks and eggplant. In the episode, the Friends group is split between those with high salaries, Chandler, Ross, and Monica, and those with lower salaries, Rachel, Joey, and Phoebe. Situations like going out to fancy restaurants, buying lavish gifts, and attending expensive parties aren't as accessible to the lower salaried friends. It ends up putting them into situations where they're uncomfortable and anxious about their budgets.
Sometimes you guys don't get that, we don't have as much money as you.
You may have experienced this yourself, either as a higher or lower income friend, or maybe a friend whose family is wealthier than yours. If you are someone who struggles with setting financial boundaries like Chandler, here are a few tips. 1, just being open and honest like Joey was in that last clip. If an activity is outside of your budget, let your friends know versus stretching your wallet. If they're real friends, they'll understand. And 2, propose cheaper alternatives. There are tons of things to do that don't cost a lot of money. For example, my friends and I have moved mostly to cheap hangouts like playing tennis at free courts, hiking, cooking together at home. These are ways you can still hang out and make memories without spending a fortune. And lastly, practice saying no. It's hard, it's awkward, but it's really important to learn how to say no to things that just don't align with you financially. Going back to Chandler, I think this is the main problem I see with his finances. Beyond that, he has a very stable income. He seems fairly responsible with his personal spending, and even with him taking a huge pay cut to change jobs in season 10, I'm not too worried because he'll likely move up with pay raises over time. But I cannot say that I am as unworried about all the members of the Friends group, including my next financial audit victim, which is Phoebe Buffay. Buffy? I think it's Buffay. And Phoebe likely has the most unconventional financial situation of the group as a result of her various odd jobs. I love Phoebe. I think she's such a fun, cool character. And one of the things that makes her so interesting is all the random jobs she seems to have. I'd argue her primary job, or at least the one she was most consistent with and passionate about, was as a musician. But unfortunately, that path doesn't often make a ton of money.
If I was in this for the money, I would be a millionaire by now, you know?
Throughout the series, we also see Phoebe working as a telemarketer, a masseuse, and working alongside her friends as a caterer with Monica, an extra on Days of Our Lives with Joey, and even as Chandler's secretary. And look, these jobs might not always pay a ton, but let me say, Phoebe stays working. She might have periods of uncertainty, yes, but she's really good at adapting and she's open to taking opportunities. That type of resourcefulness goes far when it comes to her financial health. Not to mention, she lives with her grandma and eventually inherits the house when her grandma passes. That's huge. Inheriting a house, especially in New York City, and getting to live there for free before inheriting it probably let Phoebe keep much of her income. Now, it's important to mention that even though inheriting a house can be awesome, there are financial risks in that you might be subject to inheritance taxes, and you'll very likely have to at least pay annual property taxes, maintenance costs, and insurance. So there would be some fixed costs Phoebe needs to deal with, but still, it's probably a whole lot cheaper than getting her own place. And the judgy parts of us might say, oh, it's not fair that Phoebe gets to inherit a house, but let me point out to you that basically the whole Friends group has a financial safety net in the form of their family. Phoebe is probably the one with the least amount of financial stability from her childhood, which likely has a huge effect on how she approaches money. I mean, Rachel's from a rich family that helps her out, Ross and Monica are from an upper middle class family, Chandler's parents are rich, and while Joey's family is working class, they're incredibly tight-knit and supportive of each other. I point this out because I think it's really important when thinking about our own financial health, and especially when we inevitably compare ourselves to others, to recognize that we are not all starting from the same place. That's not to dismiss being smart with your money. Ultimately, Phoebe and the others are responsible for their own finances, but I do think it's worth giving ourselves a little bit of grace if we feel behind financially, or at least not where we'd like to be. And with that tidbit, let's move on to our 6th and final financial audit for the dear we were on a break Ross Geller. Geller? I think it's Geller? I'm butchering these last names. Ross is everyone's favorite paleontologist, tied maybe with the Jurassic Park paleontologists. Hard to beat them actually, because, you know, their dinosaurs were alive.
What the hell's a paleontologist need a beeper for?
Is it like for dinosaur emergencies? Help, come quick, they're still extinct.
Ross is a smart and goofy guy, and I'd argue the steadiest member of the group when it comes to his financial life. Throughout the show, we see him working at the Museum of Natural History and later on as a professor at NYU. I think the only time he isn't working is when he's put on sabbatical by his boss, but there's a good chance Ross was still getting paid then, as many sabbaticals are paid for by employers. The Bustle article I keep referencing for the characters' salaries has Ross at $75,000 a year. Not bad, especially for the 90s. $75,000 in 1995 is a little over $150,000 today. Plus, academic jobs have excellent benefits, so it's likely that Ross had a really good retirement plan going with company match and really good health insurance. Cost-wise, Ross lives alone most of Friends, which means he was probably paying way more for his living expenses than the other friends, especially compared to the $200 rent. I'm still not over that, sorry. Though he doesn't appear to shop much, we do know he has splurged hard in the past, namely when he bought a red sports car.
Like Ross.
Hey, that was a practical purchase. I needed that car for transportation. Okay, I have a child. How hot do I look in this, huh?
Cars are a massive expense and can be a huge source of financial stress for people. And while yes, cars are essential for some people, though Ross lives in a city with great public transport, there are also a lot of bad financial decisions made around cars. From buying overpriced sports cars, to taking on payments you can't afford, to not considering the other costs associated like maintenance and insurance. People often pay more for a fancy car as just a status symbol versus just utility. According to Newsweek, 2 in 5 people, quote, feel their car expenses have affected their ability to afford other essentials, while over 1 in 8 said they found themselves living paycheck to paycheck because of their car costs. When we think about saving money and living below your means, the discussion can often get dominated by the avocado toast thing, as in people saying that you should just cut smaller expenses like avocado toast and daily lattes. And while there is truth to budgeting your day-to-day, we owe a lot more focus to the bigger financial decisions, like what cars we buy or what kind of house we own or rent. Especially for big ticket items, falling into status symbols like Ross is a formula for living above your means and getting stretched financially. Last thing when it comes to Ross is that he's been divorced 3 times by the end of Friends, plus he has 2 kids. All of that can come with huge financial tolls of lawyer fees and child support. And no, I am not supporting the whole, oh, men get screwed in divorce and women just take all of men's money narrative that incels love to push. If you want to see comments like that, just check out my trad wife video. Fact check, by the way. Many studies show women are financially screwed over a whole lot more by divorce than men are. But, you know, misogynists don't like facts. They like feelings. But back to Ross, this means that he has various financial obligations that have to fit into his budget. It also highlights the importance of a prenup, because personally, I think prenups are a great idea regardless of who you are. It just makes the process of divorce easier if you need that, and it can protect both parties' assets a whole lot more. But with that, I think that I should end these financial audits and provide you guys my conclusive ranking of worst to best financial situations. Drumroll please, place your bets down if you haven't already in the comments. And number 6, I have as the worst financial situation of the Friends group, Phoebe Buffay. I love her, I really do, but I suspect her financial situation is the most precarious of the gang. In 5th place, I have Joey Tribbiani. Even though he is making bank by the end of the show, acting is notoriously unstable, and he hasn't had a long history of managing his own money since Chandler paid for most of his lifestyle before. In 4th place, I am putting Rachel Green, because while she has great career progression and resilience, she simultaneously has a huge love for shopping, and that can get pricey. In 3rd place, this one was a tight one, I wasn't fully sure, but I put Ross. We know he has a steady career and income, especially being a tenured professor, and he lives a very comfortable lifestyle. He has some extra expenses stemming from his 3 divorces and 2 children, but at the same time, he likely can afford it. He was pretty neck and neck with my number 2 pick, which is Chandler Bing. Chandler makes great money, and even with his pivot to advertising in season 10, I feel confident he'll continue making good money in his career. His big issue, like we discussed, is setting financial boundaries, but I think if he figures that out, he'll do great. And my number 1, my top of the pyramid, is Monica. Monica is my number 1 pick, not only because she has a great job as a head chef where she makes good money, but more importantly, she has good habits. We often underestimate how important habits like frugality and budgeting are, but ultimately they can be way more important than just how much money you bring in. For me, Monica's organized and thoughtful personality paired with a solid career sets her up to be the best financial situation of the gang. But what do you think? Do you think that I got the ranking right? Did you do it differently? Did I miss anything in the financial audits? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and what characters or TV show you would like to see me cover next. Thank you to those who support me on Patreon. If you want to become a patron, the link is down below. Thank you guys so much for watching and getting this far. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!